Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. Some very interesting news stories that we have today. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Rhythm Trader, a pseudo-anonymous, self-proclaimed cryptocurrency enthusiast, trader, and investor, took to Twitter to convey another one of his or her eye-opening posts, citing analysis of price action. Rhythm, who has quickly become known for his or her rally cries and inspirational tweets, conveyed to things that were noticed by the followers. The diehard of Twitter page currently has over 10,000 followers, noticed a massive amount of crypto is being accumulated by his or her analysis. These bouts of accumulation have been purportedly catalyzed by the largest players who don't have any intention of liquidating their positions in the near future. This goes, the reason I'm talking about this is because the news that we're getting about stuff like this is happening more frequently. Before we maybe had, I want to say even like just 5 or 6 of them during the course of at least a part of 2018, where we heard that there were people who were accumulating mass amounts of cryptocurrency. And this is all while the prices of cryptocurrencies were going down. And this also ties into directly as well in the video. It was either yesterday or the day before that, where we were talking about that there are people who survey and look over the blockchains diligently. I mean, part of it has to do with people making sure that things aren't fraudulent, that things aren't double spent. This is how we usually have news, like, 25 minutes after there's been a 51% attack, because people are paying attention to the blockchains so diligently. So on top of this as well, we also have people who look at the movements of major wallets. And this is why sometimes, especially in 2018, where we saw situations where people were moving 15, 20,000 Bitcoin, any coin would have you, and the price of that coin would actually move up and down. And this goes further into the discussion of why we need more liquidity in the market, so that we can absorb these movements, because typically we don't see price movements, or rather we shouldn't see price movements when people are moving their cryptocurrencies. But yeah, Rhythm's quip doesn't come unbacked. In December, Grayscale Investments, a leading arm of the crypto conglomerate that is the Digital Currency Group, revealed that it had surpassed a key milestone. The milestone, for those who missed the memo, was that Grayscale's in-house Bitcoin investment trust surpassed 200,000 Bitcoin that they have under their management, which is more than 1% of all of Bitcoin in circulation. Considering that a majority of Grayscale's clients are institutions, Wall Street hotshots, and forward-thinking funds, it would be fair to say that the whales are still clamoring to purchase Bitcoin at depressed values that we have right now. On the same week that Grayscale revealed this achievement, DR, a leading crypto research unit, noted that Ethereum's whales have continued to purchase Ether in mass. More specifically, the amount of Ethereum or cryptocurrency that Ethereum's top 500 wallets have now rose over 80% over the course of 2018. To put these figures into perspective, on January 1st, whales kept 11 million Ether under lock and key. As of the 30th of November, the same group of users held 20 million Ether. This jaw-dropping sum adds up to nearly 20% of all the Ether currently circulating, and 2.5 billion under US dollar values, clearly indicating that whales are heavily betting on a market reversal. Was really even what I found even more interesting, at least in my view, when it comes to this entire discussion. This is something that's popping up a lot more, because I mentioned at the end of 2017, I said not that there were only very few people who were profiting from, let's even focus on the price of Bitcoin hitting 20,000. I said, I wonder how many people have been accumulating behind the scenes that people just aren't really paying attention to. Like I said, we have instances and situations where we know that banks and so-and-so and blah, blah, blah are getting into the cryptocurrency space. These Swiss banks and stuff like that aren't allowing you to hold, or rather, they aren't allowing you to hold your Bitcoin with them. And they don't hold the cryptocurrencies themselves. And I mean, we're going to get to the end of the road at some point. At a certain position in the cryptocurrency world, we're going to figure out exactly, maybe not the exact number of how many cryptocurrencies or how much they're holding, but we're going to figure out that they are holding, and that they are holding massive amounts. When you even check like the other, there are, once again, people who check these wallets to see how many that they have. A lot of times people say that the largest wallets, let's say there's a Bitcoin account that holds 800,000 Bitcoin, or just a random number throwing out there. And people usually like, yeah, that has to do with a cryptocurrency exchange. And then people do more diligent work and they look a bit deeper and they realize that all that Bitcoin actually isn't held by an exchange at all. It's actually just held by maybe just one rich person or a couple of other rich people who have been accumulating. I mean, I don't assume that they'd all be accumulating to one wallet like that, especially like with a large number. Anyway, this is going to happen for quite a long amount of time. Keeping in mind, prices are down. Prices have been going down, and these people have been buying up as much as possible. There was also that news thing. It was last April 2018, where we had news that there was one person, and I have to reiterate that it was just one person in Dubai who had accumulated 30,000 Bitcoin as the prices were going down. This was in March or April. This was before we even got really, really low. So you can just kind of imagine in your head how much that one person probably has right now. And you know that the UAE, and more specifically Dubai in this conversation, they're very rich countries. So you can imagine that on any given day, there are at least a couple of people who are like, I think I'll try and buy 500 Bitcoin. And, you know, it kind of goes on this way. Anyway, I find things like this incredibly fascinating. I think a lot of people claim that they don't care about things like this, because when you have conversations like this, it kind of gets back to the discussion of centralization, because a lot of people before loved to claim that there were certain coins that were so hyper centralized because of how few people were holding so much of them. And then you get into discussions where there are a couple of people who are holding 20% of all the Ethereum and one company that holds 1% of the Bitcoin. I've noticed a lot of these conversations have completely disappeared from the mouths of Bitcoin maximalists and Bitcoin extremists, as Charlie Lee likes to call them, simply because you lose the conversation very, very fast when you realize that some of the richest people in the entire world, which is what crypto, Bitcoin specifically, was meant to get us away from, now hold the largest amounts of Bitcoin. And in the future, where we have these crazy price predictions where Bitcoin could go up to $500,000 in 10, 15, 20, whatever so-and-so years, multiply $500,000 by 30,000 Bitcoin, and you realize that the richest people in the world still remain the richest people in the world. I find it fascinating. Don't know if everyone else does. Whales are going to be whales, and they're going to continue to control the market. Just kind of how things are. Let's move on. Next up, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, has frozen all pending administrative proceedings due to the government shutdown. According to a legal expert, however, the commission is not allowed by law to delay the decision on a Van Eck Solid X Bitcoin ETF past its current deadline. The SEC has issued an order on the 16th of January, putting all pending administrative proceedings on hold because it has experienced a lapse in appropriations. According to the documents, all proceedings will have to face a hearing before the commission or an administrative law judge are currently frozen. Here's a photo of someone smiling. Legal expert, I guess it's this guy, Jake Chervinsky, said that not even the SEC has been shut down before that order. Administrative proceedings were still in motion, hence deadlines were unaffected. Now that the SEC has still all administrative proceedings, interested parties may file a motion to dismiss that stay if their proceedings are not an exception of the activity stated in the order. Long story short, we're supposed to have news from the SEC in the United States that the CBOE-backed Van Eck Solid X Bitcoin ETF, as to their final decision on the 27th of February of this year, obviously, people have been wondering if, because there is a government or partial government shutdown, any type of shutdown is kind of insane in the U.S. right now, if we were still going to get an answer from the SEC. It appears that we still are. I believe in my heart of hearts that the answer is going to be no. But it's nice to see that people in the cryptocurrency community are still hopeful for this. I think hope is a wonderful thing to have. When you've had over 1,000 days of people trying to process or push through Bitcoin ETFs, and the SEC has continuously said no, especially, I mean, I don't know. I don't think anything much has changed except for the people getting into the cryptocurrency space, but I feel like the SEC is probably not going to change their minds. Anyway, it appears that they are still legally obliged to give us an answer. I feel like while we have more custody solutions and while we have more this and that, it's my personal belief that the people in the SEC probably don't care about a Bitcoin ETF, probably don't care about Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency space, nor do they care about decentralization. So they're probably going to say no. But I would rather not have a prolonged wait for an answer. I'd rather us get a no, which we're going to get, and then kind of move on from there. I hope that when we have this no, that crypto in general, the people within cryptocurrencies begin to work on other things or wait for the actual release of Backed, which we know is going to happen, as opposed to something that people have been betting on for the past 4.5, almost 5 years at this point that we just are not going to get. But yeah, let's move on. Next up, I'm going to breeze over this one. For those who were wondering, maybe a day or two ago, it appears that the Beam cryptocurrencies blockchain were apparently they were like blockchain stoppages. People weren't able to send transactions. Something just wasn't working. Beam announced the information on its official Twitter account on Monday, saying that its network had stopped at block 25,709, that it was investigating the matter. Apparently now, for those, once again, who were wondering, who have Beam or were trying to figure out why their transactions were just not going through or something was going wrong or incorrect, it appears they have fixed it. So let's hope that this doesn't happen again. I mean, Beam is still incredibly new, so things like this kind of get pushed into the background. This has happened to many other cryptocurrencies where their blockchains have either stopped, there's been some type of a problem. We've had to like revert back to older firmware and stuff like that because something, went wrong during the upgrades. But yeah, as a just in case you were wondering why your Beam wasn't working. Next up, Switzerland-based Falcon Private Bank has introduced support for direct transfers and storage of select cryptocurrencies, according to the official press release published yesterday. The bank announced that both private and institutional investors can now directly transfer a series of major cryptocurrencies to and from the institution's own segregated Falcon wallets, as well as convert crypto into fiat money. To start, Falcon reportedly only supports 4 major cryptocurrencies. They are Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Litecoin. I assume it's the Bitcoin Cash because of the fork. Kind of interesting that they don't actually have Ethereum Classic because of the fork. And I think there's a Litecoin Classic, but I would advise them not to really use that. With the recent move, Falcon claims that it has made blockchain assets fully bankable, with the select cryptos being included in the bank's portfolio statements, as well as in tax reporting documents. In the press release, the private bank also mentions its proprietary custody solution that it claims to provide secure storage of digital assets. Falcon's custodial service has been audited and examined by third-party providers, the company stated. The bank also states that its crypto service is compliant with AML, anti-money laundering, and KYC, Know Your Customer regulations. This is the second Swiss bank that we are talking about over the course of a 36-hour period who has allowed cryptocurrencies in some capacity onto their platform. But this time, this is what I was talking about last week, how funny life is. I said, I think crypto is going to take off in a very interesting direction. And I mean also price-wise, in my opinion, when we start getting news about the first banks who are opening up like crypto bank accounts, one can only assume, in my mind, if you are going to be able to convert crypto into fiat money, the thing that they are going to have is that you can leave your cryptocurrencies with them and at will go to an ATM or maybe go to a bank teller and say, I would like to take out 500 Swiss francs, and they will ask you if you want to take this out against your Swiss franc account or from your Bitcoin account, and they will give you cash for it. I told you this was going to happen. People keep doubting that banks are actually in the cryptocurrency space. Also, don't forget, as a bank, they are not giving this service to people on their platform through their private bank simply because they like the idea of decentralization in cryptocurrencies. I can assume or ascertain from the situation that they probably hold an enormous amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Litecoin, as they are now allowing their customers to do the exact same thing. Switzerland is probably going to take over a huge part of the cryptocurrency space. I can only imagine the things that are happening with Swiss banks, especially if they are, typically your customers may be of wealth. They may have some money, and you can pretty much call them and be like, hey, I need you to invest in so-and-so for me. So how much behind the scenes buying is actually going on? Everyone pay attention. This is so blatantly obvious at this point. The fact that multiple banks, it's not even multiple, we can't even count them on our hands anymore. I assume it's probably dozens and dozens of banks at this point who are deep into cryptocurrencies, and they're not even betting on it at this point. If you have ever paid attention to traditional finance, if you ever watched things happening on any other major news outlet when it came to finance and you kind of rolled your eyes, these people know exactly what they're doing. There's something going on behind the scenes that we just may not be aware of, but they are going to control the prices, and the prices are not going to go down. Just my opinion. Once again, kind of how I feel about the situation. Anyway, I thought this was quite fascinating. I love news stories where we hear things like this because people doubted it for so long that banks were into cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure what planet most people are living on, but rich people like money, and if they feel like something else that they can get into is going to make them more money than their friend, they get into it very, very fast. So here's this actually makes me feel kind of sad for them, but I think it's kind of interesting. South Korean exchange known as Coinnest is looking to take back cryptocurrencies accidentally sent to clients in an airdrop. The exchange announced last week that some 6 billion Korean won, around $5.3 million US dollars in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies were sent to customers due to a computer error, according to Coinnest Korea. The exchange was trying to airdrop WeGame tokens, or WGT, when the incident occurred. Further, due to the server issue, some customers also received Korean won from the exchange. The exchange has no plans to compensate users for any losses suffered through its server issues. Coinnest servers issues were resolved by the 19th of January, and the company reveals or plans to roll back transactions to restore its assets. It also asks customers to return funds they received by mistake. As of 3 days ago, about half of the money was returned. Some traders who received Bitcoin instead of WGT reportedly sold their new holdings immediately, causing Bitcoin's price to flash crash to $50. My goodness. So the long and short of it is, I also have a question for everyone out there because I'm almost desperate to know the answer. There was this exchange in South Korea. They were supposed to have airdropped WeGame tokens, whatever in the world that might be. If you, and I mean this in all honesty, give me an honest answer. If you were on a cryptocurrency, let's say you were on Binance, and for some reason Binance was trying to airdrop a token, and you ended up receiving, let's say, 1.5 Bitcoin by accident from Binance, would you give it back? Would you be honest enough to say, this isn't my money, I'm going to give it back to the people at Binance, I like what they're doing, and kind of go on with your life? Or would you withdraw your money immediately, or immediately cash it out into cash, or transfer it to another platform and try and get your cash out? I'm conflicted in my own. I think I would give it back, but that's also a lot easier to say than actually do. No, I'm pretty sure I would give it back. It's just really, it's a difficult moment because there have been situations before. I don't know if you guys, little quick side story. I've heard a lot of stories before, especially when I was growing up, where banks made mistakes and they were depositing money into people's accounts. And I had my friend's mother, I don't remember if it was her or her friend. One day she checked her bank account and there were, I think, an extra $16,000 in there. And she waited about 5 days to see if the bank was going to correct their mistake. And they didn't. And I think she ended up spending all the money. But yeah, just thought I'd talk about that for a second. It's very interesting. I don't know how they made such a large mistake. I feel like you have to click a few extra buttons to be able to airdrop Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as opposed to WeGame tokens. One would assume during an airdrop, you kind of look at the screen about a good 3 minutes to make sure that you are sending this and that no other boxes are ticked and that you are not sending Bitcoin. Anyway, I thought that was interesting, at least to me. Next up, we're going to breeze over this one, but it's kind of interesting. Bitcoin's problems are only solvable by departing from proof of work, according to research published by the Bank for International Settlements, or the BIS, on the 21st of January. According to the paper, when in the future Bitcoin's block reward falls to 0, given that only a limited number of new Bitcoin will ever be created, transaction fees alone will not be able to sustain mining expenses. The argument implies that the Bitcoin network would become so slow that it would eventually become virtually unusable, stating, simple calculations suggest that once block rewards are zero, it could take months before a Bitcoin payment is final, unless new technologies are deployed to speed up payment finality, end quote. The study further notes that while second layer solutions like Lightning Network could help, the only fundamental remedy would be to depart from proof of work. Such a departure, according to the report, would probably require some form of social coordination or institutionalization. The document's overall conclusion is that, according to the researchers, in the digital age too, good money is likely to remain a social construct rather than a purely technical one. The Switzerland, once again Switzerland-based BIS, is an organization consisting of 60 central banks, which reportedly account for 95% of global GDP. Working backwards, the Bank for International Settlements, which is an organization consisting of 60 central banks, which reportedly account for 95% of global GDP, wrote a paper talking about Bitcoin because they care about Bitcoin, because they probably are accumulating Bitcoin. They're writing these things to let their clients know, and also for everyone else to know, in their own way, that they are interested in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrencies, and they have been accumulating them, and just some of these shortcomings. This is typically something that ends up happening. Don't assume that a paper or anything researched about something that has a negative aspect to it will push people away from it. It comes down to banks in their own way are obligated to let people know that if they are potentially going to get into a new asset class or into a new anything that may be interesting or economically interesting for them in the future, that you have to know the goods and the bads. Like, especially if you, I mean, not that I read many of these, but I've read a couple of them because, you know, life. If you read papers like this from banks, they're usually 16, 17, 18 pages long. They will go over every single good and bad from these things, and they even have like price projections for some of these, and they show, like, once again, like I always say, look at where we were before to look at where we are going into the future. Kind of interesting that another bank is, I mean, I want to say pay attention, but I'm pretty sure at this point you get it. This is a very big discussion. I thought about creating a video about it, the discussion about Bitcoin moving from proof of work to proof of stake. It's a very difficult discussion, especially because I have seen over the last couple of weeks, I haven't included a lot of them in the videos, and I'm still seeing a lot of them, and I think we're going to see a lot more of them as we continue to go forward. There's a major push right now so you realize that in the news we don't really hear anymore about banks who hate Bitcoin, banks who don't like it. This is definitely going away. I can't stand it. It's more like them writing papers like this to talk about the odds and evens of the prospects of cryptocurrencies. And now that all of them, in my opinion, are in the cryptocurrency space, the things that are being written now is that they believe that Bitcoin needs to move from proof of work to proof of stake. And what this kind of comes down to is that, I don't know, it's a lot of crypto politics, but a lot of people believe, I'll say it this way, that the people who are working on Bitcoin's code are doing so for the money and not for the decentralization, and that they, like many other people in the world, or just about everyone has a price, and that as we get these situations where these people are owning and holding massive amounts of cryptocurrencies or massive amounts of Bitcoin, they will, in essence, be able to kind of buy their way in. Like I said, very difficult discussion to kind of have. I don't think personally that Bitcoin is ever going to move to proof of stake, but one does not know what the future holds for any cryptocurrency. And yeah, on that weird topic, let's move on. To kind of finish things off, Changpeng Zhao, CEO of Binance, says the current state of the market is overshot. He also noted that Bitcoin's all-time high price in late 2017 was also a stretch. Speaking at the Binance Blockchain Week in Singapore, the CEO of cryptocurrency exchange Binance, Changpeng Zhao, said that the prices of cryptocurrencies toward the end of 2017 were overshot. He said, He said, I believe at the end of 2017, there was definitely an overshoot on the price side. There was a lot of guys rushing in, very simple projects with very simple white papers. Then, of course, as everyone rushed in, once that massive rush in finishes, the price declines. Talk about the price of how we went. Discussing the current state of the cryptocurrency market, Changpeng Cao said that we're actually overshooting the lower side of it. Here's a pretty picture. He said, we've been in a bear market for a very long stretch, probably the longest in history for Bitcoin right now. I think right now my personal view is that we are actually overshooting on the lower side right now. According to the CEO, the industry has advanced substantially, and there are a lot more people involved in it, as well as going to conferences. 2018 was a spectacular year for cryptocurrency, regardless of what people might think. The price is completely slammed down to the ground, but it's estimated that we have either a 7x or a 10x amount of people who are now into cryptocurrency despite the prices going down. The price is going down on a major asset actually has drawn in more rich people than we even previously considered. And as far as the market being overstretched, overdone, overshot, this was said since Bitcoin's price was around $6,000. And then we had the digital birth of Bitcoin Cash SV, which caused Bitcoin's price to drop down to $3,000. It's moved up a little bit since then. A lot of people think that every single coin right now, that they're all completely oversold, but we're just waiting for a catalyst to kind of move the prices back up. But yeah, I think that is definitely going to do it for this video. Prices aren't doing too bad over the last 24 hours. Nothing is doing too bad. Tron is pushing up, I think, on BTT hype that we have at the moment. Nothing else is, that to my knowledge, going completely insane. But yeah, it's nice to see that we're not in red. And it's very interesting. Every time that I've realized that I've said that, a couple of hours later, markets end up going down. So I think I'll stop using that exact phrase. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I hope it's absolutely amazing. Thank you all once again for what is that I can't tell if that's a dragon or a pigeon. I keep looking at it, and I think there was, so for those who don't know, the Bitcoin Cash SV people tried to change their logo to like, so you see like Bitcoin's is this, Bitcoin's Cash is this, and they tried to change it to like, I think like a right side up B, because this one's tilted, and they try to have like a right side up B, I think with the same similar colors. But no one is actually like adopting it because it's clearly another way to try and scam people to buy your coin because it has the B logo with the slashes going through it. So I can't tell if they've made it into a pigeon or if that's like a dragon that's like missing a wing. It looks like maybe like a chicken wing or like a pot pie. I can't really tell. It just looks really weird compared to all the other symbols. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. See you.